We sure appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the opportunity to step away from other activities that go on during this month to do something that I think is much more significant in many ways. The electoral process, political process, it's the worst process in the entire world except for every other one. And so let's not give it away, but right now, this is a much more important opportunity to call attention to things that make a difference. And I want to express appreciation to the Jackson students. That's the swingingest rendition of some of our patriotic songs I've ever heard. And maybe it's about time we did a little life to it. So thank you for being here. It is never a problem, and it is certainly always right to be patriotic Americans. There are problems. There are concerns that we have. There are challenges we look back on in our military experience. Most of those challenges don't come from our military, but come from some of the politics involved around at times. When at this very time, the actual record shows that there are 22 vets each day that are committing suicide in this country. And when some of these vets call our VA hotline for suicide hotline, they're put on hold. That's a problem. That has to be dealt with. When we have an experience going back to a military action that we will be honoring today, especially back to the Vietnam War. And we know that our military was capable of and was performing functions that was bringing about not only success but victory. And politics got in the way. And anti-war demonstrators got in the way. And this country responded inappropriately. That's wrong. But when we as Americans remember the brave willingness, patriotism, sacrifice given by our veterans and our military that are presently stationed all around this globe, and the families that wait behind at home, and honor their service by supporting them regardless of how they feel, and regardless of the worry, the pain, the cares, the frustrations, we have to say, God bless an America like that. And so it's a privilege to be here today. We have much to do today, so let me move forward with that. With a recognition of a World War II veteran. And what an opportunity that is. I won't have this opportunity much longer. I'm known as a straight-talking politician, so I won't mince words. World War II veterans are going the way of all flesh. And we're losing them, the greatest generation. And so when we have an opportunity to honor a World War II vet, let's do that. And so, Charles Pert, U.S. Army Air Forces. Charles, I was going to come to you, but I see there's no way you're not going to come up front. And I want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for your willingness to stand for this country's greatest ideals and promote that in the rest of the world as well. So on behalf of a grateful nation, it's a privilege to present you with this little symbol of thanks to honor you for your service, your valor, your sacrifice when our country needed you. Thanks for your service during World War II. U.S. Army Air Forces, Charles Pert. God bless you, sir.
It's an honor to serve in the service when I was in there. I mean, that I've had a lot of bad experiences and I've had great experiences. The great experiences overcome the bad experiences. And another thing, when a VA hospital,
This is called lobbying.
I go to VA, I was there yesterday, I had the best, wonderful service in the VA hospital.
Is that Ann Arbor?
Yes, sir.
If ever you don't get service, let me know.
Well, thank you.
But,
thank you, everybody.
Now let me jump on that as well and say I've visited the Ann Arbor VA hospital multiple number of times just to make sure that we are hearing the right things and it's still going on. And while there are problems in any hospital, not only VA hospitals, I think we can be grateful for the service, the upgrades, the things that they're doing at the Ann Arbor Hospital. The red tape still is a challenge. It's not the care that you'll receive, and we'll keep working on it. Carlos Barraclough. He's not here? Well, let me also make it very clear. U.S. Army, Air Forces as well. A grateful nation says thank you, Carlos, and we wish you were here. But even not being here, I think all of us say thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Major General Leonard Isabel, Commander of the Michigan Air National Guard. It's a privilege to have a general here. It's a privilege to have someone who has the command for an operation that I was privileged to represent for 4 years of my 8 years representing the 7th District in Battle Creek. It's my privilege also to still know that we're keeping them there, and we still have major operations going on there, and we want to keep it there. Of the highest order, doing things that are a necessity for our country at this time in a very different challenge and war situation with the technology that's upgraded and the fact that we have to face people who have no willingness to abide by any rules of engagement, who have no willingness to abide by any decency, and whose only process is terrorism. Have generals like this general commanding forces that will do nothing but good for us. I appreciate the fact you've taken time to be here today. General.
Well, thank you, sir. Before I go on, I'd like to thank the members of the American Legion Post, the folks that were responsible for this event. This is great. I echo everything the Congressman said about the pleasure of honoring our veterans. I mean, this is what we have to do. We need to take care of the folks that served us so well and our American heroes. So, as far as our Vietnam vets, we'd like to focus on them now. Much has been made of the lack of appreciation shown our Vietnam vets when they return from service in Southeast Asia. I'd like to give you a perspective on a currently serving military member and how that has changed over the years. I've been in the military about 30 years at this point now. I'm one of the old guys. You know, my days are numbered in terms of active military service. But I will say that every time that I'm out in the community in uniform, there's an overwhelming sense of support for our military members. And I know that they're not thanking me. When I go to a restaurant, somebody picks up my tab, you know, that unbeknownst to me, someone who approaches me on the street and shakes my hand and thanks me, and that happens multiple times per day, every time I'm wearing a uniform, which is every day of the week when I'm working. They're not thanking me, they're thanking those that served before me and are currently serving military members. So I just want to let you know that although your experience wasn't the best, and we're aware of that, I think our country has shown that we're able to learn from our mistakes of the past and honor all of our veterans, not only the World War II, but the Korean War veterans and the Vietnam veterans. So with that in mind, I would like to read a proclamation. I do have certificates for all of our Vietnam vets in attendance today. This is from the state of Michigan, Governor Snyder. This is a commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. Whereas May 28, 2012 marked the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. And whereas between 1964 and 1975, more than 3 million Americans left their homes and families and served overseas in a series of battles and conflicts of the Vietnam War. And whereas more than 58,000 citizens gave their ultimate sacrifice for a nation, many returning physically and mentally injured, others were held as prisoners of war, and more than 1,600 service members are still missing. And whereas Michigan's sons and daughters who served in the military during the Vietnam War, 2,657 were killed in action, 36 were held as prisoners of war, and 49 are still unaccounted for. And whereas of the 7,400,000 Vietnam veterans, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs estimates that 247,000 reside in Michigan. And whereas the state of Michigan recognizes the men and women who served with honor during more than a decade of fighting in the challenging terrains of Southeast Asia, where they faced extraordinary and unprecedented dangers. And whereas we remain thankful to those who fought in this conflict and are grateful for their brave service and draw inspiration and pride from all that they are. The servicemen and women who served in the Vietnam War represent a generation who exuded the very meaning of courage, bravery, honor, and sacrifice. Now, therefore, I, Rick Snyder, Governor of Michigan, do hereby proclaim May 28, 2012 to November 11, 2025 as a commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War in Michigan. And that's signed Rick Snyder, Governor of Michigan. So I'd like to hand out those certificates to all of our Vietnam veterans in attendance today. And sir, you want to do that? Introduce your pins as well.
Mr. General, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for participating today. We have these to hand out as well as the pins. It was August of 1971. General, I'll never forget that day. I got on a train in the south side of Chicago with a bunch of other potential recruits. My lottery number 85 had been called, and I headed to downtown Chicago, the depot there, to fill out the forms, to answer the questions, to follow the various colored lines, to bend over at appropriate times, to cough at appropriate times, and ultimately I wasn't called. And oftentimes as I've gone past the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C., or any of the traveling memorials, I've wondered if there's a name on that black wall that took my place. And so to me, today, to be able to look in the eyes of Vietnam War veterans and not simply say welcome home, as many of us have been saying for years, because it was a shame, it was an abuse of our freedom to welcome Vietnam returning vets home who were spit upon, who were called baby killers, and were told not to wear their uniforms. Dark day and a dark time period in the history of the United States. And I think we've learned from that. But today to, I hope, finalize your welcome home, it is my privilege to read your name, and please understand that I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want to give you the exact same message, every one of you, because each of you served. And so that message will be given to each of you with the pin, with a certificate, and with this tribute as well. So if you would come up as I read your name. James Arnold Airman First Class, U.S. Air Force. James, on behalf of a grateful nation, I want to say thank you to you for your service, your sacrifice, your valor, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. God bless you for that. Welcome home. Wear this with pride. You earned it.
I will. Thank you.
George Cousineau, Corporal, Marine Corps. George, on behalf of a grateful nation, I want to say thank you to you for your service, your sacrifice, your valor, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. God bless you for your service. Welcome home. Wear it proudly. You earned it. Ken Demo, Spec 5, U.S. Army. On behalf of a grateful nation, I want to say thank you to you as well for your service, your valor, your sacrifice, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. Welcome home. God bless you. Wear this with pride. You earned it.
Thank you for your service, sir. Nicely done.
Kenneth Hines, Petty Officer, 3rd Class, U.S. Navy. Thank you, on behalf of a grateful nation, for your service, your sacrifice, your valor, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. God bless you. Welcome home.
Thank you. Petty Officer Hines, thank you for your service.
Thomas Luck, Specialist E5, U.S. Army. Neighbor? Yeah. On behalf of a grateful nation, I want to say thank you for your service, your valor, your sacrifice, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. Welcome home. God bless you. Wear this with pride. You earned it.
Thank you.
Dennis J. Osborne, 1st Class, Radar, U.S. Navy. Sir, on behalf of a grateful nation, I want to say thank you to you for your service, your sacrifice, your valor, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. God bless you. Welcome home. Wear this with pride. You earned it. Thank you.
You honor the country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me say, when I started giving these pins out months ago, I thought it was a good idea. I can tell you it's benefiting me during the course of these past number of months, probably as much as each of you. This is called reality of what America is all about. So thank you again. Leland Phipps, E5, U.S. Navy. Leland, on behalf of a grateful nation, I want to say thank you to you for your service, your sacrifice, your valor, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. God bless you. Welcome home. Wear this with pride. You earned it. Ratowski, E4, U.S. Army. Bill, on behalf of a grateful nation, I want to say thank you for your service, your valor, your sacrifice, the fact that when your nation called, you came. God bless you. Welcome home. Wear this with pride. You earned it.
Thank you, sir, for your service in the military. Nicely done.
Thank you. Paul Setlowski, E3, U.S. Army. Paul, on behalf of a grateful nation, I too want to say thank you for your service, your sacrifice, your valor, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. God bless you. Welcome home. Wear this with pride.
We all know Veterans Day is coming up, but this month is personal for me. I'd like you guys to remember the members of the 173rd Airborne on November 8th, and the members of the 1st of the 7th Cavalry and Colonel Hal Moore on November 15th. And if you've seen the movie We Were Soldiers, or heard the song, the 8th of November, you'll know what I mean. Thank you.
Tom Dominski, Spec 4, U.S. Army. Nation, I want to say thank you to you for your service, your valor, your sacrifice, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. God bless you. Welcome home. Wear that with pride. You earned it.
Thank you, sir, for your service.
William Arnett, Spec E4, U.S. Army. Grateful nation, I want to say thank you to you for your service, your valor, your sacrifice, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. God bless you. Welcome home. Wear this with pride. You earned it. Did we miss anybody? Come right on up, sir. We always do our best to get the names, but sometimes...
Michael Howard.
Michael Howard and...
Spec 4, United States Army.
Michael Howard, Spec 4, U.S. Army. I too want to say thank you for your service, your sacrifice, your valor, and the fact that when your nation called, you came. God bless you. Welcome home. Wear that proudly. You earned it.
I want to say something about August 71.
Okay.
You were going in. I was coming home from Vietnam. And I got in Seattle, bought my ticket with my uniform on, and then took it off immediately because we were being harassed horribly.
Well, we're not harassing you anymore. Thank you.
Harassed is a funny word.
Thanks for your service. Nicely done. Airborne camp?
No, I was 134th Assault Helicopter.
Assault helicopters. Okay, outstanding. Thanks for your service.
Tim, I received my pin already. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
But did someone say thank you to you
Yes, you did, personally, a few months ago.
at Jackson?
At Jackson.
I'm going to give you a certificate there, Chapel.
Well, thank you.
And that's
Thank you, Steve. You bet. And I'd also like to invite everybody here is a little program we do here at the American Legion. We harvest all the flags that fly over the veterans' graves. And instead of retiring them in a regular retirement service, we retire them with respect and folding them up in a little triangle that we usually retire a flag in. And those flags over here have flown over the graves of our veterans. All we ask is if you take one, put it in a prominent place where you can see it every day and say a little simple prayer as you walk by. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it comes to a time that is long past due, and General Isabel and I have the honor of conferring medals as well as the Purple Heart on a veteran who sadly is not with us, didn't have that opportunity to be with us, but his family is here. And as a result of their efforts, he will not be forgotten. And his service will be remembered in a very special way, but not simply special, in the way that it should be remembered. And before I bring the family up to receive the awards, the medals, the distinguishing marks of a life given, but a life well served, and before I have the General read that citation, let me just bring our minds back to the person we honor. Diane Denny, Paul Rohr's niece, writes this. Sergeant Paul Leander Rohr, brother of Nellie Rohr, Denny, was born February 14th, 1930. He was the youngest of 5 children, and his mother died of complications from childbirth shortly after his birth. He was so funny, Nellie says with a smile on her face. Paul was 3 years younger than her. When Paul turned 18, he decided to enlist in the Army for 4 years. He was sent to Osaka, Japan, where he worked in an Army hospital. He loved it there so much that when the Army wanted him to re-enlist, he agreed, with the understanding that he would return to Osaka. However, while in Seattle awaiting transport to Japan, his orders were changed, and he was sent to Korea. Then Corporal Rohr was part of the 2nd Infantry Division. Their mission was to eliminate all the bypassed pockets of resistance to prepare for the end of the war offensive, which was initially projected for November 15, 1950. The date was postponed due to the inability of another division to complete their mission, according to the activities report for November 1950. And I quote here, "Movement forward during November 24th and 25th was slow but steady, and it was believed that the enemy line of resistance would soon be breached, permitting subsequent rapid advance. On the night of November 25th, the enemy struck a heavy counterattack. By the morning of November 26th, the offensive could not be continued, leaving the entire right flank of the 2nd Division exposed. Corporal Rohr was taken prisoner of war on November 26, 1950. He was kept in captivity in Pyongyang, North Korea, Camp 5, where he died of disease incurred as a result of his capture on March 12, 1951. That was 1 month to the day before I was born. His remains were not recovered. Both the United States Department of Defense Joint POW MIA Accounting Command and the Central Identification Laboratory in Hawaii continue to advocate for recovery and search for the remains of our missing soldiers so they can be reunited with their loved ones. Paul L. Rohr was promoted to sergeant while in MIA status and awarded the Purple Heart Medal, the Combat Infantry Badge, the Prisoner of War Medal, the Korean Service Medal, the the United Nations Service Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Korean War Presidential Unit Citation, and the Republic of Korea War Service Medal. Diane says that her mother, Nellie, asked her if she knew how the Army tells you when someone you love has died. Diane said, and I quote, "They send a couple of officers to your door." Nellie said, "They first go to your neighbors. They tell them to stand by in case they are needed, as they have bad news to report." That's a graphic example of what takes place. That's a reminder that a nation that sends its best off to defend our highest ideals is a nation that is all together, neighbors and family. Now, we don't see that in every case, but the general and I would say that's what we need to promote. This is life. This is a story of one who served well, to the nth degree, and ultimately for the supreme sacrifice. So, General, thank you for being here. And I'd ask the family at this time to come forward to receive the just rewards of this distinguished military personnel.
And as they're making their way up, I would like to say a few words about the actual operation that Sergeant Denny was captured under, as well as a little history on the awards that we're handing out today. First of all, some of the Vietnam vets pointed out a few significant dates in their military service, and it turned out, as I was preparing for this award presentation, November 24th, 1950 was very significant, and it was the first day that the Chinese entered the war in Korea. So we, obviously North Korea invaded South Korea. They pushed us all the way back to one small area of South Korea. MacArthur took over. The UN troops made their way into Korea. They pushed the North Koreans all the way up, approaching the Chinese border, and that's what caused the Chinese to intervene. And on November 24th, 200,000 Chinese soldiers came in, and they actually defeated our forces and took 2,000 of our folks as POWs. So your brother actually served in a very significant battle in the Korean War. And far from being an end of war offensive, the war ended 2.5 years later. So that's what I learned. There's a lot of books and documentation about that, but he was involved in a very, very historic event in our U.S. military. They still train, use it as an example of what they have to do for our military officers. So if I can have everyone stand. If you can stand, military members, please come to attention. I'd like to award the Purple Heart to the family of Sergeant Paul Rohr. It's one of our oldest medals instituted by General George Washington during the Revolutionary War. And it says, "The United States of America, to all shall see this, presents greeting. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America has awarded the Purple Heart established by General George Washington at Newburgh, New York, August 7, 1782, to Sergeant Paul L. Rohr, Company C, 1st Battalion, 9th Infantry Regiment, for wounds received in action, resulting in his death while a prisoner of war on 12 March 1951 in Korea, given under my hand in the city of Washington this 6th day of September 2016, the Adjutant General and the Secretary of the Army, Eric K. Fanning." Ma'am, I'd like to hand you this award, along with the medal that the Congressman has. On behalf of a grateful nation, we appreciate your sacrifice.
And Mrs. Denny, again, it is my honor to stand with the General, and more importantly, on behalf of a grateful nation, likewise to say thank you for Paul's service, his valor, his sacrifice, and that when his nation called, he came. God bless you. this medal is for you, the family, and for Paul.
Thank you.
And sir, we also have several other awards. I don't know if we're going to hand those out or if we would like to read those as well. I would like to say, everybody please be seated. If I may, the Prisoner of War Medal is something that, believe it or not, just was instituted in 1985 by Congress to recognize our men and women of the armed forces who were taken prisoners of war. So most of us thought that it was a lot older of an award, but in 1985, of course, Congress in its infinite wisdom were able to generate that award. And since then, we've been able to give it retroactively to many, many members of our military who served in World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and all the actions since then. So obviously the Ward family will be getting a POW medal as well.
General, thank you, and sometimes Congress does get it right.
No, you did, absolutely,
And,
sir.
this is something, most members of Congress have the POW MIA flag hanging outside of our offices as well.
Right.
And I think it's a reminder that we must never forget. General, thank you so much. You've added so much from inside the ranks to this today that we wouldn't have had you. To the family, thank you for your perseverance. These medals are yours as well, because of Paul. And we would encourage all that are here today to take an opportunity to look at these and be reminded God has blessed America with significant people like yourselves and others who are willing to serve, whatever the cost. That, I believe, ends this ceremony. I want to say thank you to the American Legion, to the Senior Center for assisting us in doing this here today. This is what ought to happen. God bless us all.